again welcome for the institute level talk by Professor J.D. Anthony. So let me introduce a couple of faculties are new and couple of the audience is also I see is new into this one. So let me introduce Professor J.D. Anthony. He is an associate professor at the School of Planning and Public Affairs at University of Iowa, USA. Dr. Anthony is an accomplished scholar. His article, The Effect of Florida's Growth Management Act on Housing Affordability, was named one of the most outstanding articles published in the Journal of the American Planning Association in 20 years. He was named a HUD Urban Scholar in 2001. Anthony explores US and international issues in his research. Dr. Anthony is an outstanding teacher. He has received the Excellence in Planning Education Award from the Iowa chapter of the American Planning Association, one of the only 2 educators in Iowa to be ever given this award. Dr. Anthony has taught students from over 90 universities in Asia, Australia, Europe, Africa, and North and South America in-person classes. Since 2009, he has taught a study abroad course titled Sustainable Development, the Kerala Experience in the University of Iowa's internationally renowned Indian Winterim program. This course, taught in Kerala, India, attracts students from many US colleges such as Columbia University, the University of California at Berkeley, and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Dr. Anthony's works have significant societal impacts. In 2003, Anthony co-founded a non-profit entity, Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County, to provide a new and flexible source of finance for affordable housing development in the Johnson County of Iowa State. From 2004 onwards, this entity has disbursed over 13 million US dollar to help create over 1,000 reasonable priced housing unit. In 2019, Dr. Anthony was awarded the University of Iowa's prestigious Michael J. Boldy Award for Excellence in Service. In 2020, Dr. Anthony was named a Fellow of the American Institute of Certified Planner, the highest recognition for urban planners in the United States. In 2002, Dr. Anthony was named a Fulbright Climate Studies Scholar to India for 2002 and 2003. So please help me to welcome Dr. Anthony for his talk on chulas. So I will not take more time. The floor is yours.
Okay, cook stoves. So basically, in India, these are called chulas, right? And across the world, they are called TWCs, traditional wood-burning cook stoves, where wood or some kind of biomass is burned. This is a major problem globally that has not received much attention among a lot of people who should be. Like, for example, most of us here are in the field of planning, and our goal as planners is to improve the quality of life of people. We focus on cities, but also there are many areas in which we can contribute our knowledge and skills to improve the quality of life of people. So this is one of those issues that in India has been a major issue for many decades. From at least from 1880 onwards, there have been interventions to reduce the amount of chula use in India. So what does this do? In 2010, and I use 2010 because that's when the last Indian census was, right, 2011. So most of my numbers are from that time, so you get a framework for how it compares to India as well. So in 2010, 2.67 billion people around the world used some form of chula. They're about 40% of the global population. 80% of sub-Saharan Africa, 56% of India in 2010, and 33% of China. China has made very significant progress in reducing chula use. Now it's about 8% or so. Okay, in the last 15 years, they've really replaced chula very significantly. But in 2030, 5 years from now, about 33% of the global population will still be using traditional wood-burning cook stoves or chulas. And I know, I'll talk about India's initiatives also. Chula smoke is full of sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxides, carbon monoxide, and lots of particulate matter. It has very high PM10, PM2.5 concentrations. And one of the reasons that PM2.5 concentrations are higher in developing countries than other countries is because of traditional wood-burning cook stoves like chulas. That's one of the reasons. As you know, PM2.5 can get past the blood-brain barrier, so it can start affecting how you think. It can start affecting mental processes because it can get past the blood-brain barrier. When a woman is cooking at a chula, 1 hour of cooking is equivalent to smoking 40 cigarettes. Okay? Yeah. And it's not just the eye irritation, it's not just the headache that the woman experiences, the person experiences. It causes lots of respiratory diseases, as you would expect. It causes cardiovascular diseases and even digestive diseases. It is, this chula smoke has been confirmed for pulmonary diseases, for lung cancer, for narrowing of blood vessels to the heart, for strokes, for cataract for women, and for pneumonia for children. And indoor air pollution from chulas is one of the primary causes of diseases in South Asia, according to the Global Burden of Disease report that comes out every year, but I've used the 2010 report here. And in 2010-2015, the chula smoke accounted for 4 million deaths worldwide per year. So 4 million people worldwide are dying because of chulas, and 1.4 million are in South Asia. So primarily India, a little bit in Bangladesh, a little bit in Nepal and Pakistan. But 1.4 million is 10 lakh women. Majority of them in India. So about 700 to 800. So 7 to 8 lakh women. 7 to 8 lakh women are dying every year from complications from chula smoke. Those are the ones that are dying. People don't have chula smoke today and die tomorrow. They're suffering from all the diseases for 30-40 years. And a woman who's suffering for 30-40 years is also having kids, and those kids are being exposed to chula smoke as she's cooking. So the woman's life is affected, the kid's life is affected. So this is a very, very serious problem that needs a significant attention. So women and children spend a lot of time collecting wood for chulas. This is all from Rajasthan. All these pictures and all my talk, everything is from Rajasthan, where I've been going since 2013. Okay, so 12 years now. This is women go great distances to collect firewood, and each of those bundles that she's carrying is easily about 50 to 60 kgs. Okay, and I have tried to lift it. It was very difficult for me to put it on my head. And these women are carrying it twice a week, at least twice a week, for many, many weeks for their lives. And you can see women of different ages here. There are older women, there are younger women, there are married women, there are girls who are not yet married, but they're all carrying this. They are not just carrying it, they're going there, chopping the wood with an axe and carrying it back. It's not just they're going and fetching it, they're chopping it also. It's very physically strenuous, and they are not just going outside the house and doing it, they're walking for 4 or 5 kilometers in each way. And every year the distance is growing because of deforestation, right? The forest is receding, going further and further away from them. So each year they are walking further, chopping it, walking back further. Each year is becoming more stressful. This is an example, and those of you who come here before, yesterday, day before, I spoke about slow violence. This is an example of slow violence. It is, women are suffering so much, they are literally dying from this. And yet, what are governments, I mean, how much of national attention does this issue get? So Rob Nixon is a professor of English at Princeton University, and he writes about these environmental issues, and he writes about slow violence. He's published a book called Slow Violence. And he says that these are issues that are politically and emotionally different kinds of disasters have different kinds of emotional impacts. Falling bodies, burning towers, exploding heads have a page-turning potency that tales of slow violence cannot match. Okay? Stories of toxic buildup, massive greenhouse gases, desertification may be cataclysmic, but they are scientifically convoluted, in which casualties are deferred often for generations. In the gap between acts of slow violence and their delayed effects, both memory and causation readily fade from view, and the casualties thus incurred pass untallied. So these are quotes from his book. And this is what he says. This is an example of slow violence. So much is happening, so many women are dying, so many kids' lives are affected. You're not paying much attention to it. India, many energy sources, in rural India, so urban India, about 65% has LPG, okay? But even in urban India, about 20% does not have it. 20 to 30% is using some biomass, even in urban India. Obviously, in rural India, 75% is using some form of biomass. And there are huge implications from this. So one is the health implication. Second is the deforestation that is happening. So that is happening, a huge deforestation and desertification that comes from this. The third is this smoke from biomass produces a lot of black carbon. And this black carbon just hangs in the atmosphere where it is produced and has huge impacts on the microclimate. So it increases the temperature in the area where this black carbon is produced. And black carbon remains in the atmosphere for a very, very long time. So it's got short-term, localized global warming or warming impacts and long-term, diffused global warming impacts. So there are deforestation impacts, environmental air quality impacts, and health impacts. Okay? So it's one of those problems that if you can solve it, it can solve lots of problems at the same time. It can reduce deforestation, it can reduce global warming, it can improve people's quality of life, especially women and children's quality of life in India and many other developing countries. In the US, you've heard of the IPCC, and so every country has a coordinator for IPCC. The US coordinator for IPCC was a guy named Kirk Smith. Kirk Smith he's from the University of California at Berkeley. He spent 30 years working on chulas in India. Okay, he was the US representative on the IPCC. He died 2-3 years ago, just before COVID. And this graph is Smith et al. 2000 is Kirk Smith. And large areas of rural India and China have high ambient air pollution. Okay, you can see the dark color, India and China. China has made a big difference since 2015 in NASA pictures, okay? But India still has high levels of, the darker the color, the more ambient air pollution in these places. A lot of that, this is in rural India, so it's not from vehicular pollution, it's not from factories, it's from chula smoke. Lots of deforestation in India, and you can see how the forest cover in India, 2006 versus, I think the top is 1946. Okay, so you can see how the forest cover has changed in India. Very significant changes. Many other places also, you can see how Russia, China have seen major decreases. You've seen North America seen major decreases. Amazon is still there, South America, the Amazon is still there. And household air pollution is one is a major risk factor for a whole bunch of diseases in India. And there have been lots and lots of intervention over time. Lots and lots of interventions over time in coming up with different kinds of chulas. Okay? And does anyone recognize this man in the center of the picture? Yeah. So between 1996 and 2000, he was the Vice President of the United States, a guy named Al Gore. He was a big supporter of environmental protection. And he recognized that it's a big thing, and therefore he was coming and visiting this Chula initiative in India. And some of you might recognize a name called Hillary Clinton. Her husband was the president. Many of these presidents and their wives have their own foundations. And these foundations do major things, like they take some major initiative and do something. Hillary Clinton has a foundation, and the foundation is focused on, the name of the foundation is Clean Cook Stove Initiative. That's what they do. Hillary Clinton's foundation throughout the world is promoting clean cook stoves. That is trying to get chulas out. In India, there are many reasons for why the governments have, Indian national government and state governments have tried to remove the chula. But I'll go through them. But from the 1980s till about independence, the British government and many princely states were focused on preserving the forests. And they felt that chulas are devastating the forests. The colonial rulers were interested in preserving the forest because forest for them was revenue. They didn't care about the ecosystem. They didn't want villagers going and chopping down the forest and taking the timber that they saw as a resource that they could use to expand their country. The princely states supported the rulers because they wanted to go hunting. So they wanted the forest so they can go and hunt tigers and deers and elephants. Okay? So many initiatives were there to protect the forests, and they were focused on preventing people from using chulas. But it was not very successful because there were not many other alternatives, right? There was no LPG, there was not much electricity. So wherever the government, the British government, colonial rulers, or the princely states focused more on preserving the forest, people used other biomass such as cow dung. Okay, but these initiatives are there for a very long time. In the 1960s, the Indian government started saying, well, we got to focus on indoor air pollution. And they focused on providing chimneys to houses where chula was being used to reduce indoor air pollution. Then in the 1970s, the Indian government said, well, all these people are cutting down the forest, we won't have enough fuel. And remember this, there was a global oil crisis. So the Indian government felt that, well, we must reduce chula use so that we can extend our forest reserves and use it for cooking for a longer period of time. In the 1980s, the focus of the Indian government became stemming deforestation, reducing deforestation, because all these forests, all the trees were being cut down and forests were disappearing, and that was affecting the entire ecosystems. And in the 1990s, it became the focus became on climate change, reducing emissions, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, reducing black carbon. And in the 2000s, the focus became, and should have been for some time, women, their health, and how their health is being affected by chula use, and how they have to spend so much of time in actually procuring the wood for burning, for cooking for themselves. So the focus of the Indian government has changed over time, but in spite of all of this, chula use has continued to be very robust. Okay, it still is very robust. It is used extensively in India, and the numbers have not changed much. In spite of a major government initiative in 2017, 2018, numbers have not changed much, and I'll discuss that and why it hasn't changed much. First, many of the initiatives involve producing a high efficiency chula HEC, high efficiency cook stove. Where they were saying that we'll make same amount of wood can cook more things. But the problem is, people have examined this for a very long time, and they found that these claims have not really been supported by scientific evidence. People have looked at the chulas and examined the chulas, and therefore there's a university similar to this where they have an entire section of chula testing of chulas and all that. They've been testing. They have hundreds and thousands of chulas that they have tested and they have in their lab, and lots of people have. And as you can see, people have come from all over the world to look at this issue in India and other countries. Many of the cook stoves were poorly designed and required changes in lifestyle. People had to make some changes in their lifestyle, and I can one of the leading researchers is a person of Nepali origin, is this guy, Yadama. His first name is Gautam. Gautam Yadama has been doing this research for a very, very long time. He's the Dean of the College of Public Health at Boston University. He's been doing this for 30-40 years, looking at this issue. He, and along with Kirk Smith, are the two leaders in the world. Were now there's only one. Kirk Smith is gone. These chula replacement programs have underestimated the cultural, social importance of chulas. Chulas have lots of cultural, social significance. They are rooted in the culture and the lifestyle of the people. And I'll tell you how I got involved in just a minute ago. The goals and needs of rural people and those of governments that are promoting improved cook stoves don't line up. Okay, so when those goals don't line up, this thing doesn't. There's no uptake of these. And often there are problems with improved cook stove implementation and the implementation of these programs. So, by and large, in most places in the world, wherever they've been these kinds of things for 40-50 years in many parts. Okay, it's been there in Ghana, it's been there in Rwanda, it's been there in Vietnam, China, all those places. China has had success. Most of the other places have not had success. Yeah. The success rate for all these initiatives is generally about 15 to 20%. Well, what is success rate? Adoption of an HEC or some other technique. Okay, either replacement by natural gas or using a high efficiency chula. Across the world, the adoption rate is about 15 to 20%, which is why the success rate has been very low. The only place where the success rate has been very high is China, where they've dropped from 33% to 7 or 8%. Okay, because there the government has really pushed lots of policing, lots of incentives. If you're using a chula, you get beaten. I mean, you'll have something happen, and they've really pushed coal as an alternative to a chula. Okay, traditional wood burn, and then gas. Okay, so when did I get involved in this project? So I don't do chula stuff. Okay, I generally do housing stuff in the US. But in 2012, 13 years ago, one of my colleagues at the University of Iowa came to Rajasthan in winter, 2012 winter. And he is a mechanical engineer, and my university offers courses where we take students from our university to different parts of the world, and we talk about some major issue in that part of the world. So he is a mechanical engineer focused on renewable energy. So he was teaching this course in Rajasthan on why, as India expands its energy footprint, as India is expanding, it will need more energy. And he was teaching, his focus of the course was how in Rajasthan, solar energy could be used widely. Okay? So that was the focus of the course, and he was talking about how there could be large utility scale, like citywide solar power systems, different kinds of solar power systems, and they could help Rajasthan become self-sufficient. Okay, Rajasthan is far away from a hydroelectric, it's far away from coal resources. And so this seemed like a good idea. And when he was there, he offered this course in Udaipur district because he thought it would be a cool place to have that. So that's why he had it in Udaipur district. And he saw in the villages these women walking for chopping wood. And as he thought about it, he said, well, this is a huge deforestation issue. So we must solve this problem. So he came back to the US after the course, and he said, well, the solution is very simple. These people are using this wood for cooking. Rajasthan has lots of sunshine, 360 days a year. The initial capital cost of a solar cooker is high. So he said, let me put some money together and distribute solar cookers in 6 or 7 villages. So he collected some money from organizations in the US, came here, got some solar cookers, and in 6 or 7 villages in Udaipur district, he distributed solar cookers. So before distributing the solar cookers, he went with an organization, a local non-profit called FES, Foundation for Ecological Security, that's very active in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, four states. It's very active, and they've been active for 30, 40 years on deforestation issues. So he went with them. So he was not going like a US professor going to a place, he was going with this organization. And in each of these villages, they had 2 or 3 meetings showing how this cook stove, the solar cooker could be used. And people came and saw how the solar cooker could be used. And it's a nice metal box, right, with glass and all that. But people there are living in mud huts, thatch roof. Many of them don't have, actually most of them don't have private water supply or toilets. Most are open defecating. So in that kind of, that's the kind of context. And so they got this nice solar cooker for free, and he explained everything, how to cook. They cooked some dishes, and he showed them. And then he went back. And then he went back to the US. He was happy he went back to the US. And then he came back 6-7 months later. And he went to these same villages to see how people are using the solar cooker. And he found that all of the houses were using the solar cooker as storage cabinets, not for cooking. Okay, all of them were using solar cooker as storage cabinets. Then he comes back to the US and he contacts me and he says, Jerry, you're an urban planner, you do a lot of community engagement, you talk to people in the community. This is a major problem. I've invested so much of money into this. It seems like a simple solution. Lots, they need something to cook, lots of energy. I gave them the solar cooker and they're not using it. So I came into that. And I started talking to these people. We had some friends, people in FES who were there with us, and they came along. And we went to these people and started asking, why were they not using the solar cooker? The first was, Rajasthan is a very hot, dry place. And for the last 1,000+ years, people in the village cook twice a day, at dawn and at dusk, because it's so hot. Now we're telling them, come out at noon and cook when the sun is up. Problem number 1, okay? That's not going to work, because for thousands of years they've cooked one meal in the morning, one meal in the evening. Now you're telling them to cook at noon, say 10 o'clock or so. 10 to 2 is the ideal cooking window, cook at that time. That's a major shift in their daily lifestyle. That was not going to happen, okay? But people come with all these intentions, right? We give them these new things and say, if only you adopt it, your life will be good. But there's a huge lifestyle change you have to make. That's not going to happen. Second problem. The solar cooker can get temperatures of 250 to 300 degrees centigrade or Celsius, which is good for making all the Indian curries, even cooking meat. That temperature is enough. But it's not enough to bake corn bread. They're making this roti from corn. It's not enough to cook that. So if they have to use a chula to make bread, why not continue making the curries also in that? Okay, so that was the second problem. But those were not the biggest problems. The biggest problem was a more social problem. Okay, and that, can anyone guess what the third problem is? Most of you, you've gone to villages in India. What could be this? This is a social, it's not a technical problem. It's not a temperature problem. There's another social dynamic problem. Can anyone guess what the problem is?
Then, at a time when the ladies go to collect the woods, they generally talk each other and discuss this.
That's part of it. The other thing is, most of you're on the right track. Most of the cooking done in the houses. So many people are living in joint families, right? So a couple in their 40s or 50s has a son. The son gets married. The bride comes home. She is the cook of the family. And she is micromanaged by her mother-in-law. When she goes to chop wood, she considers that time as a picnic. The only time that she can be free from her mother-in-law. And the mother-in-law can't stop her from going, because if she doesn't go to chop wood, there will be no cooking. So these women who are carrying this wood, they're actually enjoying the time. No mother-in-law, they're going with other brides, other girls of the other women of the same age. They're going with their children, especially their daughters. And mothers and daughters, young mothers and daughters are bonding with each other. Young mothers and these brides who have come are bonding with each other. They will not stop going to chop wood, no matter what. So long as they're living in multi-generation families, they will go to chop wood. We can give them anything, they will go to chop wood. Okay? So this problem, we started investigating what to do about this problem. And this problem we found 4 or 5 years, we started doing this in 2013, okay? 2018, 2019, I talked to the US Defense Agency or Defense Organization that funds research. And the US was engaged in rebuilding, quote unquote rebuilding, Afghanistan and Iraq, okay? So the US wanted to build community support among these people in Afghanistan and Iraq. So in Afghanistan, they did this analysis, they saw that these women are walking great distances to collect water. Rajasthan is a dry place, Afghanistan is a dry place like Rajasthan, walking great distances to collect water. So they did all this remote sensing and all that, and they figured out where water is near the villages. And the US government, US Army would come and dig a big well so that the women don't have to walk for a great distance. Within about 1 or 2 weeks after they made this well at huge cost, they would find that people have put sand into the well and covered it. So they put infrared cameras to check who comes at night and covers this up. It's a woman from these villages. Same problem. They want to go away from their mother-in-laws, away from their husbands, and have a good time with the other people. They don't want to have a short walk for water. Okay, so when we come up with solutions, you have to understand, everyone has to understand the social context of the problem, right? So we put together a team, a multidisciplinary team. A mechanical engineer, the guy who started, an anthropologist, an urban planner, me, a geographer, and a food archaeologist, an archaeologist who studies food and how people have been cooking for a long time, and a historian. And a historian had worked in public health in India for 30 years. Okay, he worked on public health. His name is Paul Greeno. He's worked in public health in Bengal, and he speaks fluent Bengali. Okay, and so we assembled this team to figure out what to do with this. So it was very clear that we can't give them a new cook stove. They will use the chula, and they will use firewood. That was a given. So the issues were, how do we come up with a new device that would enable them to continue using the traditional chula? Traditional chula is just 3 stones covered in clay. Very robust, very easily repairable. The woman can repair it herself. Continue using the same thing, but reduce wood consumption and reduce smoke. So that was the design challenge. So the mechanical engineer gave the design challenge to his students, graduate students at the University of Harvard. And they came up with lots of innovations, they came up with lots of iterations. And this mechanical engineer, generally when he's not doing stuff in India, he's working for NASA on improving jet fuel efficiency, okay? So that's what he does. And he's using his knowledge to make a better chula, okay? And so, we built partnerships with Foundation for Ecological Security in India, Climate Healers in Phoenix, Arizona. We got some funding, started this device, we did some lab and field testing, and then we distributed this device that we came up with in many villages in 2017, 2018. So, the design guidelines were, we can't have them cooking outside, it's hot. They got to be cooking inside, or either inside the house or in a shaded area, in a front porch or something like that, shaded area. They have to be cooking sitting down. They have to be able to cook at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. That's historically what they've done. Traditional meals could be cooked. They need not be taught how to do it, right? So there should be no learning curve. It should be low cost and therefore should not require a government subsidy. Okay, people should be able to access it and afford it. And it should be durable and easily replaceable if it breaks down. Now, if this is a woman sitting down, and in Udaipur, and we took her picture. So she's cooking. Look at the wall behind her. Okay, the wall behind her is black from the smoke. How would her lungs look like if we took an X-ray? If that's the wall, what's her lungs? Okay, What about the child's lance? If that's the wall, what's the child's lance? Think about that. So this is what we designed. It's a piece of metal, folded strategically with some cuts in it. And we call this the Mewar Angithi. Okay, so we gave it the name the Mewar, the MA. It's made of sheet iron. One of the reasons why they use a lot of wood, and one of the reasons why there's a lot of black carbon, is incomplete combustion. The wood is not getting fully burned, and when it's burning, lots of carbon, unburned carbon, is being released. So one of the key things to reduce wood consumption, reduce carbon, is to have better combustion. And so this device allows for that. The wood is placed on top of that, allows for a clear draft of new oxygen to come in. The holes are strategic. The angle of the device, it's shaped like this. The angle of the device, and it costs. We made many of these in Jaipur, and it costs less than $1 to make it. Okay, so it's very cheap, very easy to do, and make this thing. And although a lot of calculations have gone into the size of the wood, into the number of holes and all of that, what we as a group have decided that, we will, once it is completely perfected, we haven't, for the last 4 or 5 years we haven't done anything. Since COVID we haven't done anything. But we're going to get back into it soon. As soon as we perfect all of this, we are going to make this design available on the internet for free. Okay, no copyright, all that business. In fact, our plan is to say, use it with this right to copy. Take it, use it, build it. Private entrepreneurs and others, use it. Because it's people's lives. So many people are being lost. So many lives are being lost. Anyway, we tried tested it in the lab, and we tested it in the field in Udaipur. It reduces fuel consumption by 70% in the lab, and it reduces particulate matter by 89%. We tested it in the field. In the field, it reduces wood consumption by 60%. We didn't test it for particulate matter because that's a bit difficult to do in the field, because we have to close off the house and seal everything, and so it's a bit complicated. But nonetheless, we are fairly confident that the particulate matter will also be around, maybe not 89% in the field, maybe around 70% in the field. But 70% is a big drop, right? It's a big improvement. And we were familiar with the Rajasthan area. We said we'll go back there. Rajasthan has lots of deforestation problems, and it's a place where other technologies have been adopted. And we had started this thing in Udaipur, right? So I had been there, he had been there, so we were familiar with Udaipur, and we had forged a link with FES, Foundation for Ecological Security. So although there are other reasons we provide in our papers for why we chose that place, the real reason is we've been there, and we had these connections with these people. So this is where lots of particulate matter is there, and unfortunately this is not shaded very well. The brown area is an area that has lots of. So Bihar is one place. Apparently, I did not know that. I'm just noticing it in our map right now. So, but Rajasthan, MP are places where there's lots of it. So this are the districts of Rajasthan, and Udaipur is identified here. This is the place that we went to, and there is a reason why we went there. So Rajasthan has got these two distinct, or three distinct climatic zones, right? This is the Aravalli range, right? And on the left side is desert, but on the right side it gets rain. And there are trees and vegetation there, and our areas are on the right side. So it's areas where there's lots of greenery, where there were trees. On the left side there'd be no trees, but on the right side of the Aravalli range there are trees. And this is Udaipur. This is the Aravalli range. So it gets rainfall from the monsoon, and therefore this is on the windward side, and therefore it gets. On the other side, this is the desert, right? You see that on the western side. But this is how some parts of the eastern side used to look like in 2010, 2013. And they soon became like this. Okay? In 2012, from 2018. Approximately the same area. things changing, very fast deforestation now. And the people there are not opposed to technology. You know, this guy's, he's got a camel, that's the main mode of transportation. But here, he's got a cell phone. Okay? His main mode of transportation is a camel, traditional gear. He does agriculture, but he's got a cell phone. And these women have adopted solar lanterns. Okay? And solar lanterns are very, very common in Rajasthan. And women really like it. You know why? You know why?
Because lots of sunlight during the day.
Yeah, sunlight is during the day. Why do women like it more than men?
Cleaning is good.
Huh?
She can
Yeah.
use whenever she wants to use.
She can. The reason is this. Most of those places don't have toilets. Women go very early for open defecation, usually before dawn. And when they go there, if they don't have light, they could be bitten by snakes, or they could have some guys trying to do something. This light, solar light, is a safety device for them. So it's a very popular thing. So we got these things, our MA, and we distributed to 2,205 households in the summer of 2017. I came, my friends came, and we went to these 7 villages in Udaipur district: Karich, Chitravas, Kayarkhet, Charakhet, and all those villages. And we distributed it to the households. We went with FES. By the way, between 2015 and 2017, as I was telling Professor Mandal and some others, every Friday for 3 hours, me and 2 others had a 3-hour intensive Mewari lesson. Mewari is not a written language. So we had one instructor from Jaipur teach us Mewari. And we were learning, I've forgotten all of that, but I have some of those things written down, all my things written down. So by the time 2017, we could understand things, we could say thank you. Okay, that's a very important thing, right? After you talk to people, you want to thank them. So anyway, so we went there. We selected different villages. We approached households in their homes with the FES people and asked them, would you like this thing? And we explained what difference it would make, that they don't have to use it, they don't want to take it from us. There'll be nothing bad happening to them if they don't accept it. And many of them said, no, we don't want to, we're comfortable, everything is fine. They were, you know, they didn't want to. And the people who took it, we conducted a baseline survey. We asked them how many people there are, do they have any problems, health problems. I'll show you some of the information. So this survey is conducted in Mewari. It was recorded in Hindi. So we had a survey that was designed in English, translated into Hindi, and all our surveyors were bilingual in Hindi and Mewari. Okay? And so, all this was done, and then we did a follow-up survey 1 year later, in which we went to 102 households. And we visited, we had site visits between and after all this. And the average household size in these places is 5.8. 96% have some form of land, they own their land. About half of them did only farming, but there were about 40% that did farming and labor. Labor is generally construction labor. The husband is going to some nearby, he's traveling to Udaipur town, 2-3 hours away from these villages. Most of them had subsistence lifestyle. If they had agriculture, they cultivated enough to feed their family. They didn't have much to sell to other places. Only 33% had reached, only 1/3 had got up to middle school. Because they are very uneducated people. But look at the cell phone ownership. Almost 60% had a cell phone, and there are many households that had 2 or 3 cell phones. Okay? And only 20% had a motorcycle, and there were several that owned a cell phone but not a motorcycle, and only half the households had electricity. So it's not an urban area, but they have all kinds of innovations. The cooking was done by the oldest woman, about 2 hours spent in cooking. Only wood was used for cooking. They walked 2 or 3 times, 5 to 6 hours each time to get wood. Almost 61% said the smoke causes lots of problems for us. Most problems for headache, vision problems. These are we can experience. If cancer comes, they don't make the link. But headache, eye problems, they can link it to the smoke. And very few of the households had any women above the age of 55. The life expectancy for women that year in India was 69. So most of them were under 55 years. So you can imagine why, right? So this is one woman, but 1 year later, 72% were using the MA. Okay, this is a $1 device, very simple $1 device, 72% adoption. Much higher than the 15-20% of these improved cook stove by Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Indian government, World Bank, IMF. This $1 device was a higher adoption rate. People were still using it. The main reason for non-adoption, 28% was, they were not using it 1 year later, was that this thing did not work with the chula. Okay, so sometimes if the chula is sitting very low, the stones are very low, and you put this device also, there's not enough space to put put wood under it. Not enough. You can't put enough wood under it. It did not allow for large diameter logs. Many of the women preferred larger logs, bigger logs, because you light one, then you don't have to worry about it for a long time. And we hadn't thought of that. Some said we did not know how to use the MA. I don't really, because we had explained how to use it, but probably we didn't have good follow-up. We didn't go back and through it with FES and explain it to them, so that was a problem. And some said we'll do it someday, we still have it. It's lying there, we'll still do one of those. But 72% had 72% were using it. Almost all of them said using it reduced our firewood. They couldn't quantify it, but they said we knew that it's going to reduce, and they confirmed that. Some of them said that it reduced smoke, but many of them said our eyes don't burn, we don't have headaches, we don't have stomach issues. Many of them said that. And only about 1/3 of them could actually make the entire connection. Of the people who, only 1/3 of them could actually make the connection and say it's because of this MA that we are having less physical symptoms. Many of them were using less wood, and this wood. Now, one of the things that we feared was when people they would use the MA, they will chop the same amount of wood, and then they would sell the wood commercially. That didn't happen. Okay, which is good. In other words, deforestation was reduced. So that was good. And then in these villages, women didn't have other opportunities for wage labor. So the time that they saved by not going for wood walks was not generating any income for them. Okay, but that is changing because of the MNREGA. Okay, now they have opportunities to work in this rural employment program. So as they give up their wood walks, they can probably have some cash income. But otherwise, when the amount that they were saving, the amount of time that they were saving was again engaged in reproductive labor, meaning just taking care of their family, taking care of the children, taking care of the farm and all of that. No wage income, but now it can be. What was interesting about all this is, this is benefiting 72% of the people. They're experiencing these benefits, okay? Many of these people have a cell phone. No one has told them to buy the cell phone. But one family buys a cell phone, the next door family has to buy a cell phone. One family has this MA, they're having health benefits, next door the family is not asking, where did you get this MA from? Why are you not going for these wood, chopping the wood anymore? Why are you not coughing? Why don't you have a headache like I have? And this thing is not diffusing. Cell phone, which costs much more than a $1 device, people are buying it, and it's diffusing. This thing is not diffusing. You know why? A cell phone is a status device. And cell phone is something that the men in the family like. The chula affects the woman in the family. the man in the family doesn't care whether the woman is suffering by smoke or not. Okay? That's why it's not diffusing. So the woman is coughing, the woman has headaches, yeah, who cares? That's what happens to women, is the man's attitude. What is surprising, actually, is also the woman's attitude. We spoke to lots of women and said, this is, the people who had the MA for some time and then they didn't have, when they had the MA, they didn't have any health symptoms. And then for some reason, the MA broke. You put lots of wood, this temperature where the wood is burning is very, very high. This thing can get deformed. And sometimes it collapses. The iron piece deforms and collapses. When it collapses, then it doesn't function anymore. They could have gone to FES. FES would have given them a replacement. They didn't go. They just sat there without their, and so we asked them, why didn't you? So this is what the woman said. My life is a life of drudgery. I'm cooking every day. I'm struggling every day. I might die when I'm 55, 60. If I live up to 80, my life is going to be a longer drudgery. What do I do? Why should I aspire to have a longer life? This is fine. If I die at 55, 60, that's okay. They had no hope, and that was very sad. Okay? So our next intervention, when we are going to try, is we are going to try to convince the men that this thing is going to affect their kids' lives. You don't care about your wife or your mother, that's fine. So that's going to be our strategy for intervention. And we want people in the area to start producing this, in those areas to produce it. If you know people in Bihar who would produce it, I'll give you the designs. Use it and produce it, but only one thing, I want to do a baseline survey before, baseline survey after, because I want a paper out of that, okay? So if any of you have any connections in Bihar where you want to implement this thing, I'm happy to share the designs with you. Yeah.
There is a major difference.
Yeah.
There is deforestation problem because logs are being used. Here, the cooking medium is powder.
Yeah.
Or animal, basically cattle.
Yeah.
So, we as children, when we used to go to villages, it was this, the whole family would, agriculture would basically be taken care of by oxen, bullocks, basically. And then cow would be at home so that they would do milk.
And powder.
And powder, plenty. Enough for
All the cooking.
All the cooking, making cow dungs. There would be people around to make cow dungs, and then those cow dungs would be used for cooking. So no collection of wood or logs or anything. Now, gradually what happened, the agriculture transformed. It transformed from the bullocks to mechanized farming to a certain extent, not completely. So we have manifested all this. We've seen these bullocks, there were not anymore. Then cows would gradually reduce, and they're now nowhere to be seen in the households basically. Every household had. So now when the cattle is gone, there would be no dung. The people would have to buy to cook.
Firewood
So if
or
they're-
dung.
Or dung cakes. So why, if you're buying, why not buy something that doesn't give smoke? So many of the households have actually transformed to the cylinder and gas stove.
That's great, if they can afford it, yeah.
Yes, those who can afford, but those who get it free of cost down there, they have not actually switched.
They're not switched, yeah.
I've seen my people around me, my relatives, my family. This is what has happened over time.
Yeah.
But if you still show that map with Bihar as one of the
2010,
states
yeah.
having highest pollution, then probably it has not happened to every household.
But cow dung also produces smoke.
Yes, cow dung is
Also produces smoke. So all the health effects of the woman are still
yes,
there.
yes.
Okay, so and the dust, the carbon, black carbon effect is still there. Only the deforestation probably is not there if they're using cows.
When you're speaking about this, there is one more difference. Basically, we have pujas and havans and all. There are different types of woods which are used. There are 9 or 16 different types of wood pieces of wood are consumed. Now, they say you should have havans regularly. And it happens every Purnamasi, there is puja of Vishnu. So now scientifically it has been proved that the smoke that is emitted from those kinds of foods, it actually purifies the environment. There are no microbes within the house, and it remains there for approximately 1 month. And just slight deterioration is there, not much.
Yeah.
So if you have havas and pujas every month, it will keep on purifying your house even if
Yes.
you've not painted them or
Yeah.
like that. So there are specific woods probably which have all those kinds of emissions which are not toxic.
Right, right. Yeah, most woods have the emissions. Maybe some woods that are used for these religious ceremonies don't have it. In the religious ceremony, you're not burning big logs,
Yes.
small portions only.
Yes,
So the
small
amount of smoke is very limited. Even in these villages, they have thatch roof, okay?
Mostly sandalwood
Yeah,
and then mixed with so many other things.
right. Yeah, even in these villages, they say that they have this cooking inside because the smoke keeps away insects from the house. They have thatch.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why they will not give up it. Now, government intervention. So till 2017, 2018, we used to get lots of support from the national government in India. They would say, okay, do this research, we will support you now. 2017, the national government came up with a program called Ujjwala,
Yes.
where everyone is getting a cylinder, a gas cylinder with a thing to cook. Okay. In many of these villages that we have been visiting regularly, these people got a cylinder in 2018, and in 2024 they are still on their first cylinder. Okay, they're still on their first cylinder. Family of 5 is still using this, the first cylinder after 6 years. That's magical, right? How many of in your homes will have one cylinder with the family of 5 use it for 6 years? If you have a cylinder like that, bring it to me or share it with others.
I have the most one.
Yeah, and the reason is, even with the subsidy, there is a certain cost to the cylinder. Okay? And versus free firewood. Free firewood that a woman wants to go and collect. Okay? So they're using the cylinder only when guests come home. So there is a daughter in the house and some bridegrooms people are coming to see the girl. They are making everything by the gas cylinder. Otherwise they are not using the gas cylinder. Also, this gas cylinder initiative, the government has rolled it out in a particular way. The government has required all the gas distributors to go out and give the cylinder and the stove. And then the recipient, the villagers have to fill out a form. And then the gas distributor gets reimbursed. So it's a big process. They don't have this they don't have the, they don't want to do this. They're being forced by the government, and there's a huge lag between when they do this and when they get the reimbursement. So, regardless of what the government says, on the ground, this is still a big problem across the country. Okay, many people are still on their first cylinder from 2017, 2018 because of these reasons. So this is something that all of us planners should work on, regardless of what the government says, because governments will say what they have to say, right? And reality is different. Okay, so we are well past time. Any questions? I'm happy to answer questions. And this is not traditional town planning. There is no city building, but this is about quality of life. And you and I, most of us town planners, we have a responsibility towards society. We have knowledge. We know about community engagement. We know how to get input from engineers. Don't know this stuff. That's why this engineer came and thought there's a perfect solution. Lots of sunshine, solar cookers, we can solve the problem. As urban planners, city planners, architects, we generally engage with the community. We try to find out what community, that's why he came to me when this thing didn't work. He knew that urban planners engage in this stuff. And this has been a fascinating, we've been doing it for 13, 14 years, and the 5 or 6 of us have become really, one of the co-authors with us, she's just published a book from a very good university, University of Arizona Press, and it's called Cook Stove Chronicles. It's a really nice book on many of the adventures that we've had in Rajasthan and she came to Orissa also. She came a lot of time. I have not been to Orissa looking at this. She spent many months in Orissa as well. Rajasthan, 2 different parts of the country. Okay, yes sir.
Sir, basically, can you just repeat the design principles which you have implied in the updated version? Like the design which you have recommended, basically.
I can share the design with you. It's
So
a-
basically, I want to know which softwares or which principles have you used, or if I can contribute to it. or not.
Software.
Yeah. Which,
There's no software. Yeah, I'll just give you the hardware.
not in that space. What is the technical background of it? That is what I want to know.
Actually,
Quite
even I
great,
don't.
actually.
Actually, even I don't know. I don't know because as a mechanical engineer, I was designing all this.
He came late. He didn't see that the slide, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, sir, that's
He
right.
didn't see that the slide. That's the which has the result.
You can meet me after lunch and I'll show you the slides.
Sure,
We can
sir.
explain things.
I will be there.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, having implemented this, has the rural areas from other districts have shown the interest to have this?
No one has. I mean, people next door have not shown the interest. The guys who have the MA and who have experienced better health,
It's not
their
so-
next door neighbor has not asked them why is your health better. So forget about the next district. Yeah.
I'm sure it would be interesting to collaborate with this artist.
Sir, in Bihar, the village kitchen has been now transformed from traditional chulha to the electrical cooktops.
Yeah.
And I think here the unauthorized electricity the villagers are getting, or the subsidy they are getting, they are very happy at it that they can use the electrical cooktops. So here the solution is coming from the government, and the unauthorized, it means this is the electricity theft only.
Mhm.
But they are doing these things.
Mhm.
They are using the electrical cooktops. Why not use the electrical cooktops or provide electricity in those villages?
Yeah, provide electricity, but there is very little electricity access. Only 46% of the households have electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So electricity access is a good thing. But where is the electricity coming from? In India, the majority of the electricity is coming from coal.
Oh,
Coal is very bad for the environment. So just switching to electricity when the electricity is coal is not a good option. It's like saying people are smoking, let's get them off smoking by giving them heroin. Okay. Let's get them off smoking by giving them heroin.
uh,
Okay. So it's a fascinating thing. I'm happy to talk about this. This has been the last 12 years of my life. So
So apart from China, any other country has taken big leap in order to reduce the carbon emission from the chula?
the other country that is making a lot of progress is Rwanda.
So Rwanda.
Rwanda is making a lot of progress, and that's primarily because lots of private and non-profit funding has been looking at that issue in Rwanda for a very long time. And some very big environmental activists have been spending a lot of money in trying to reduce this.
And Rwanda also want to become a best country after the South Africa in the African nation.
It wants to.
And they do a lot of, they have come up with a lot of environmental policies in order to address the many of the issues which many of the countries in sub-Saharan African has. That's called Kigali and all that.
Right. So that's a country that is, it's a,
It's because of
they can force things. Can't happen in so there's a bit of a challenge.
In pollution side also,
Sorry?
how much pollution is there in this chula?
With the new, yeah, no, there's a lot of pollution with the chula. There's a lot of pollution with the chula. And the new one reduces 70% reduction because of better combustion. Better combustion. There's no magic, no chemical. It's just better combustion. So I told you this presenter is going to be boring. So I'm sorry. This is
Sir, one observation is
yes, Professor Vijay.
sir, you work on a project for 12 years.
Yeah.
You test it, lot of enthusiasm and ultimately
see if it is not acceptable by the people. So what do you do next? Still work?
Still work on it. So we the last time we went there was in 2019, and then COVID we couldn't do, and now we all went in doing different directions during COVID, and now we are regrouping. So one of my colleagues has just published a book on this. It came out like recently, 2 or 3 months ago, and so we are getting back to getting the team together, and we will start some action, and this time without support from the national government.
So even if the project fails, means it is not practically acceptable, lot of other learnings are there.
Lot of other learning is there. Like when I was explaining to the US Army about this, they told me why. So they immediately made the connection. Yeah, so a lot of we didn't expect all this, right? So
There can be different solutions which are more permanent in nature.
yeah, but this is very
You can think of.
yeah, but this is very appropriate, right? They make the chula. They want to go to cut the wood. The women want to go to cut the wood. So this can till the woman in the village, till they do not have access to wage labor. Like if they have wage labor, if they can get some money, income, this is a good option for them. Once they have income, then they would like to spend more time in that income generating action rather than walking. Okay, so we're hoping that also happens, that women have access to wage labor. So there are many ways to attack the problem, but honestly, the LPG distribution hasn't worked. Okay.
So thank you, Professor Jerry Anthony. I think through your lecture we could also learn that in order to implement the things, we need to protect the freedom of the person who is concerned about that. That would be better. I think that is already advocated by the United Nations and other the document which is coming up recently. So once again, thank you, and we'll break from here to lunch, and then we'll try to assemble at 1:30 staff in the seminar room in the lab. So thank you very much, Professor Jerry.